I've told you this many times, I feel the best that I ever have in my entire world when I was strictly oranges and mono eating. The digestion is easy, quick. The body isn't confused, because you'll notice this. Those of you that are very spiritual and sensitive, notice that the more varieties or the more different foods you have at a meal, the more confused you can get up here. Because you're introducing into your auric field, into your energetic field, your energy field, you're inviting all these different levels of energy. So those that have very sensitive emotional and mental states, get it down to a very simple diet. Eat smaller meals more often makes more sense. When you're at the fruit and berry and melon level, to tell you the truth, this is simple digestion from day one. It's always smarter, and if you understand energy and the fact that the body uses energy management, then if most of your energy is in digestion, you will have none or very little for healing and detoxification. That's why you notice how you get tired when you start detoxifying. Yes, it's an adrenal issue. Yes, you're off of neurotransmitters out of the meat, off the stimulants of the proteins. They're all stimulants. You're off of all that, and you feel a little tired until you build up your adrenals. And then that energy comes roaring in. Outside of that, when you start getting up into these higher levels, the energy is phenomenal. All the concepts that man has at these lower levels of nutrition just fall apart and disintegrate. So, and that's part of the problem. Man does not have a clue what health really is. You guys are tasting it. Cool. Fats are essential, but fats are the second essential. When I look at this, my feeling is this. Sugar's number one. Why? Factual physiology. You don't get carbon, you're dead. That's it. Cells have to have carbon, like your gas, like your car has to have gas. Gas is carbon. Carbon is essential to get adenosine triphosphate, ATP. It's just carbon and oxygen coming together. Well, carbon is carbohydrates and oxygen comes from your carburetor. That's essential. So there's no arguing that one. If you do, you just don't get it. Now, secondary, fatty acids, not fats, fatty acids. Absolutely. And also amino acids. I'm not against amino acids. I'm against proteins. I'm against starch. And I'm against polysaccharides, complex sugars. Complex sugars are polysaccharides. Complex fats are considered saturated fats or so. And then you've got your protein, which is concentrated amino acids. The human body is not a complicated or complex organism, and they don't have complex digestive abilities. We don't. We have simple digestive abilities. It's just a fact. Look at how you're designed. So I agree with you, water full of love. You got to have your fatty acids. That's brain and nerve function, absolutely. But they come in fruits and berries and melons and vegetables, absolutely. It's the question of how much do you think you need? Well, let's take a look at that. You know, you have to understand, go back to the 4 processes we've talked about. When you're looking at anyone, including yourself, these 4 levels of thinking have to be there if you want to get to Wellville. Number 1, you must digest what you're eating. Is that not true? All right, so which is the easiest foods on the planet to digest? Fruits, berries, and melons. Your vegetables are much more complex, and if you notice, proteins are very complex. They even need an acid first. So you've got all these complex foods. Well, you know, every time you enter a complex food, X amount of energy is involved in its processing. Well, if you lose too much energy and you're already chronic fatigued and you're putting in foods that are hard to digest, don't expect to have a lot of energy. Remember on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day when we eat heavy foods, we sit there and want to go to sleep? Absolutely. You don't want to do that when you want to get well on detox, because you're not going to detox and get well. It's that simple. So it's just understanding. What would be the second thing? Make sure you're absorbing. Well, the tool you have is I've given it to you, and even iridologists don't talk about that tool, and that is the collar around the bowel. When it's thick, that's malabsorption, and you will see the malabsorption ring correlating with it. Always. And so this is malabsorption. You have to fix that. Well, what system deals with malabsorption? Is it celiac? No. Lymph. Lymph. There is, you got to move that lymph system. All right, so then what's the third thing? Let's say you digest well, you absorb your nutrition adequately into the bloodstream. What would be the third thing that's essential that most naturopaths, of course, forget the medical doctors, what do you have to do with that nutrition? Take it to cells? You need something in between them, and that's called steroids and hormones. And you need let's study your adrenal glands and look at all the mineralocorticosteroids that are essential for the utilization of zinc, selenium, magnesium. All these things require steroids. Well, that's not taught very much to people. Not at all. So you have to have good adrenal glands. So if you take all this chemistry and you can't utilize it, guess what could happen to you? Yeah, you can start giving yourself mineral toxicity. That's a big problem, especially if some of it turns into, especially with highly acidic bodies, rocks. And so that's important. And what would be the fourth thing that is essential to wellness? Elimination, not just of digestive waste, cellular waste. Got to remember the cells. That's the biggest problem we face, is the removal of cellular waste in a timely manner. Those are acids, and if you don't remove them, the end result is inflammation, pain, swelling, and then the loss and function of tissue wherever it is. And of course, this is a systemic problem, so generally you see little problems popping up all around your body. They're not individually different, it's the same system. So you have those four phases, guys, that are essential that you have to go through to get well. And of course, we start with elimination, because if you don't fix that, that's why all these things have failed, ironically, is that lymph system, when you don't eliminate cellular waste, it starts breaking down the body. Pancreas, liver, starts breaking down your digestive ability. That goes out the roof, and a lot of you already know that, having that problem. How about absorption? That I'd say 75% of the people fall into some degree of malabsorption, if not more. And then you have the problem with elimination, not just of digestive waste, remember, cellular waste and parasitic waste. You know, little bacteria leave a little doo-doo. That's got to go, but what system does it go in? The system that they're in, the lymph system. Absolutely. So remember, those things are essential before a person can be well. You know what? Starches is just too much sugar. That's all starches are. It's just too much sugar, we're meant for simple sugars, but complex sugars we're not. We're meant for simple fatty acids, but fats we are not. We're meant for amino acids, but proteins we are not. See what I'm saying? If you follow that line and understand that complex nutrition is not designed for the Homo sapien, nor most species in actuality, simplicity in digestion and absorption, bottom line to most functions of the cell, is energy.